progress is defined as a forward or onward movement towards a destination.
Whether we realize it or not, progress has played one of the most important roles in our lives since the beginning of time. Survival of the Fittest talks about how a species that's most adapted and most prepared to succeed in any given environment will be the one to thrive and live on. Well, not all species are always properly equipped to survive in every environment, so that's where evolutionary change factors in. Now, this change only occurs when the need arises, and sometimes in a changing environment, these evolutionary changes become necessary. Well, as a species goes on and develops and over time evolves, whether we notice it or not, this is progress taking place within living organisms. It happened amongst ourselves. And the bottom line is, whether we like it or whether we don't, this progress has become inevitable. And from the beginning of time, when it first took off, it hasn't looked back since.
The Transcontinental Railroad shortened the time it took to go coast to coast. This picture is significant because this shows a train from each coast coming together in the middle to connect the railway. This map shows the Transcontinental Railway and the other railways that were made during the Second Industrial Revolution. Railroads spurred the growth of the telegraph machine. Telegraph lines and railroad lines were bound together as telegraph poles dotted the distance of railroad lines. The telegraph and later the telephone ushered the era of instant communication. The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn shows Huck, a white boy, and Jim, a runaway slave, ventured down the Mississippi River. At the time, helping slaves was despised and Huck didn't care. This story shows the progress in society improving just like in the industry.
There were several positive changes brought around by industrial progress in America. One of these included the Transcontinental Railroad, which was completed on May 10, 1869. The Transcontinental Railroad was a huge step for the American people because it allowed us to trade goods and services through farther distances, and it enabled cities that were on opposite ends of the country to be tied together. Another advantage of the Transcontinental Railroad was it allowed people to travel over greater distances in less time. Before the railroad, people were stuck traveling in covered wagon, which took significantly longer, and if you wanted to travel any great distance, it was significantly more dangerous as well. And because of these reasons, the Transcontinental Railroad was a huge positive thanks to industrial progress in America. Another positive change brought about by industrial progress in America was that cities were able to develop much farther away from seaports than ever before. Until industrialization in America really started to take place, cities were stuck being built and based near the coast. This allowed them to have access to major trade routes and also a steady supply of food. What this didn't allow them to do was spread out and take over untamed areas in the interior United States. However, because of industrial and technological advances, we were able to start building cities farther and farther away from the coast. We were able to do this because there were new means of transportation that allowed us to bring food, resources, and goods to the coast for trading to other countries or for receiving to our cities in the mainland. The automobile brought along positive changes like never before in America. Some of these changes included the assembly line, which helped us produce cars at a cheaper and faster rate, more developed roadways so that the cars we were producing could have a smoother surface to drive on that wouldn't destroy them, and the ability to move from place to place at a faster pace than had been done before. The automobiles in this time paved the way for industrial progress in America now, and the more we progress, the more positive changes we see every day in our own lives. Industrial progress has granted us more leisure time than ever before in our lives, and we are not caught up doing busy tasks all day long anymore like we used to be less than 100 years ago.
The progressive era led to many improvements in society. From safer and more inclusive work environments to healthier and cleaner food, society took a large step forward during this era. Women began earning more fair wages as a result of strikes and demonstrations. They began voting for government officials and laws, and overall had a great upward movement in society as they gained more freedom and power. Furthermore, due to the Meat Inspection Act and the Pure Food and Drug Act, along with many other new policies, American food and drug industries were made safer and cleaner, improving public health drastically.
The Wizard of Oz is one of the most famous stories of all time. It started as a book written in 1900 by L. Frank Baum. Eventually, it was changed into a musical film adaptation in 1939. However, before the movie, the story had a large impact on the United States and eventually the world. It's been reprinted on numerous occasions, and since the movie's come out, the story's been regarded as one of the most impactful of any generation. The impact that this story had on future generations is an example of the cultural progress made as a result of the progressive era. This film is still regarded today as one of the most impactful, groundbreaking movies of all time. Now, there are subtleties in it that demonstrate progress that's been taking place over the past few decades leading up to the movie. As the progressive era leads into The Wizard of Oz, women are fighting for a more relevant role in society. This book, and later a movie, presents a female character in a strong, dominant leading role that offers women an example and a role model that they can see and relate to. This is the kind of relevance that women have been fighting for, and thanks to the resounding character that this book and later movie provides, women are able to relate and finally earn some relevance that they had been wanting in society before. Sure, there had been written books and plays written about female characters in the past, but what makes this different is the resounding impact that this overall movie has on society as a whole. And the movie started with the book. But the thing is, because of the impact that it has on the society, they're constantly seeing a woman in this important role, and it starts to settle in and not become so different. This began to pave way for a brand new wave, thanks to the progress made in the progressive era. The one given constant is time. And with time comes progress. We've seen, dating back to early man, how progress walked hand in hand with early life. Eventually, how progress in the industrial age sparks what is eventually to become modern America. And how the simple progress that was fought for in the progressive movement eventually became what we know as our regular society today. This progress has walked hand in hand with time, and it always will, because time will always go on. Given that time is the one constant, as time goes on, progress will take place, and it's a never-ending cycle. It has since the beginning, and it will continue until the end, because progress is inevitable.